our pipeline, we currently have healthcare professionals from 108 different countries. So we know that you're moving to the United States from all over the world. And that is a huge transition that you might not know what is the first step to prepare for. And so that's what we're here to help you with. We want to help you understand how housing works in the United States. So from the different types of rentals to financial planning, it's all a key part of settling in confidently and safely. We know that housing can be very different, maybe where you're currently living, than it is in the United States. So I want to invite my colleague, Chloe. She is an international employee supervisor. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
She is going to help break it all down and share how our team helps support you along the way. Chloe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I thought I was going to have to get a tissue before hearing from Lily and Shayla. I was tearing up in here. And
I know.
congratulations to the both of them. I think it was Lily said patience is a virtue and just wait and you'll have your time to shine. And that had me tearing up at the end. So thought I was going to need a tissue.
They hit some really great words of advice. And I know that it is hard for our healthcare professionals that are going through this process to have to wait. And like they kind of had the same concern, is it worth it in the end? So to hear from one of our nurses who is actively over in the United States and working and feeling supported by Health Carousel definitely means a lot. And I know they mentioned that they feel like they are doing their work with a purpose. And when I hear our nurses talk about all the great work that they're doing in the US, it makes me feel really good. And knowing that our team here in the office is doing our work with a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really excited to be here, to talk about one of the most important parts of relocating to the U.S. I know finding housing as someone, as an international employee supervisor, I know on a daily basis, sometimes I get questions about housing. So I'm always happy to talk about it.
Perfect. Well, we're excited to have you on today to chat. I do just want to do a quick reminder since I've noticed we've had quite a few more people join since we first started. Let's dive into how our healthcare professionals will be able to understand how housing works in the United States. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite things to talk about. So, finding a place to live is one of the biggest steps in your move to the US, and we're here to help you navigate it. So, when finding a place to live, there are several different elements to consider, like housing costs, lease agreements, and rental requirements in the US that may be different from what you're used to. Sometimes navigating the process can get a little overwhelming. I know I get feedback all the time that it's overwhelming, but also very exciting, which is why our team is ready and available to help you navigate this exciting process. So you guys are in luck because today we have a lot of great information about things like renting versus buying, the housing application process, types of rental options, and how to plan financially for housing expenses. So, as part of your full circle of support, our travel and housing team is here to assist you throughout this process, ensuring that you have the resources and guidance to make the best housing decision for you. So I work with this team pretty often as an IES to help get my healthcare professionals in safe and secure housing. And the work they do is honestly incredible. They answer questions so quickly. So you are in very good hands and they are very resourceful. So, one of the first decisions that you'll need to make about housing is whether you want to rent or buy a home. So, let's break down the differences so you can decide what's best for you. So, one of the biggest housing decisions you'll face is whether to rent or buy a home when you first arrive at the US. So, most international nurses start by renting before considering home ownership because buying a home requires a US credit history, savings for a down payment, and mortgage approval, which those items might be a little overwhelming once you first arrive, but that's why we're here to review it so we can see what's best for you. So, your decision will depend on your financial situation, how long you plan to stay in a location, and whether you want flexibility to move easily. So, all this being said, let's break down some of the key differences between renting and buying so you can determine what makes the most sense for you. So, looking at some key factors to consider will be upfront costs, flexibility, credit history, maintenance and repairs. And for each of those, for upfront costs, a little thing to think about is that renting requires less money upfront, while buying requires a larger financial commitment, including a down payment and closing costs. And for flexibility, the difference can be seen as renting is ideal if you need the freedom to move, whereas buying is the best if you're looking for long term stability. And then with credit history, many landlords will rent to you without a US credit history, but buying a home requires a strong credit score and mortgage approval. And then for maintenance and repairs, which I know that this is a big one that I run into with some of my healthcare professionals, is that when you rent, the landlord is responsible for the repairs. So give them a quick call and they will be able to take care of it for you. And then as a homeowner, you cover all of the maintenance costs. So that's also something to take into consideration as well. So if you're unsure which option is best, which I know there's probably several different things you're thinking of at the moment, and if you're still kind of unsure, our travel and housing team can help guide you based on your budget, location, and goals. And like I said before, they're really great with questions and honestly a fantastic resource. So you really are in good hands with that one. All right. And then now that we've looked at the benefits of buying versus renting, I want to focus a little bit more on the renting process, as most of our healthcare professionals find this to be the most cost-effective option when they first arrive in the US. So kind of you'll see on the screen here the rental process and what to expect. So the rental process in the US typically includes a property search, which is finding housing that fits your budget and is close to work. This is also something that the travel and housing team can assist you with. I know if my healthcare professionals are wanting to get closer to the facility or maybe closer to a school that's still in a good distance from their facility. I know commute to work is huge too. So travel and housing can assist you with that as well during the property search portion. And then the application portion. So once you find that place that you love, you find, or maybe a couple different options that you're looking at, you submit a rental application and a credit check may be required at this point. Again, if you have any questions during the process, please reach out to our team. We're more than happy to help you. And then from there, once you do the application, there will be a lease agreement. So you'll read and sign the lease contract before moving in. So big congratulations at that point, because you'll be able to move into your new place. And then the next part will be the security deposit. So you'll pay a refundable deposit, usually 1 month's rent. It can vary based on the place that you're renting from. So just be sure to have communication with your landlord. And again, any questions, feel free to ask our team. And then the next element is the move-in inspection. So this one might seem a little different. So it's really important when you move into your new place. I've definitely learned this in my experience with renting, is that you'll want to do an assessment of the place that you're moving into. So any kind of damages that you might see, anything in the flooring, with the walls, with the paint, kind of do a full inspection of the place and make sure to note that for your landlord. And that's kind of what goes in with the move-in inspection. And then the last part is the monthly rent payments. So I always say that it's always important to pay rent on time to build a strong rental history and also to build a good relationship with your landlord. That is also really important too. And then just a helpful tip is that as an international renter, you may not have a US credit history or social security number yet when you go to rent. So landlords may ask for alternative documents like proof of employment, pay stubs, or references from past landlords. I know in my experience as an international employee supervisor, one of the things I provide is landlord letter that kind of breaks down our program, gives kind of more insight and more support during that process. So that is one way that our team helps in these situations, but we definitely can assist if any additional paperwork is required. And then kind of finish out that segment is that our travel and housing team can assist with your application process, including helping you connect with landlords and understand your lease terms. Really, we are all kind of all hands on deck with, making sure you feel safe and secure in your housing, because you definitely need kind of a good home base to come back to after a long day of work. So it's incredibly important. And then before securing a rental, it's important to understand the upfront costs. So kind of we were talking about the cost of housing in the US. So it's important to understand the upfront costs involved and ensure you have enough savings set aside. So we're going to go over how much you should plan to save for housing expenses so you're financially prepared before you arrive in the US. So once you've decided to rent, it's important to plan ahead financially so that you are fully prepared for the upfront costs of securing housing. So many rental properties require a security deposit, like I mentioned before, typically equal to 1 or 2 months rent. Like I said before, it's really important to have that communication with the landlord prior to the application process to see what that amount would be. And then this could be in addition to your first month's rent as well. So again, just have that conversation. If you need support, we're always there for you. And then having the right amount of savings set aside before arriving in the US will make your transition much smoother. I know that there's a lot of different elements that are happening once you first come to the US. So kind of managing that and, kind of having money management at the front end and not having to worry about that stress when you first arrive. I know a lot of my healthcare professionals have been like, oh, that was a lifesaver. So the recommended savings amount are based on an average timeline of starting work 1 month after arrival. So if your start date is further out, you'll need to plan for additional funds to cover rent and other essential expenses for an extended period. For individuals renting without dependents, we recommend saving between $2,500 and $3,000 to cover the first month's rent, security deposit, and other initial housing costs. Rent prices vary significantly depending on your location. So if you're moving to a high-cost area, you may need more. And then for individuals renting with dependents, we recommend saving between $4,000 and $6,000 to cover housing expenses for your entire family. The more dependents you have, the more you'll need to set aside to ensure a comfortable transition. And then for those who want to be fully financially prepared, we recommend saving $6,000 or kind of $8,000 or more. So this will allow you greater flexibility when choosing housing, covering potential delays in your start date or dealing with any unexpected expenses. And if you plan to bring a significant amount of cash, keep in mind that the maximum you can bring into the US without reporting it is $10,000. So securing housing, to kind of wrap everything up, is to secure housing before your arrival. It can help reduce financial stress as you'll know exactly what to budget for and won't have to worry about short-term accommodations. And honestly, it would help with, stress in general because there is so much, to anticipate when moving to the US. And I know it may seem stressful and also exciting. I know I've said this a lot, but it's really important. If you ever need support or if you ever have questions, we're right there for you.
And if too, Chloe, just to interject, if you're unable to secure your permanent housing before you arrive to the US, not to worry. We're going to assist you with that process when you do arrive, whether it be calling different apartment complexes, if you do choose to rent, to get viewing set up. That way you do have a couple different options that you can go and view. And that way you're kind of kickstarting your research off once you do arrive in the US. So we're not going to leave you high and dry to find a place on your own. We'll try and help you to secure before you arrive to the US. So that way that's a burden that you don't have to worry about. But if not, your arrival specialist, your international employee supervisor will all be there to assist you. Travel and housing, like Chloe had mentioned. So full team there to have your back with your transition to the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say I've been on a FaceTime before when someone was doing a tour of their apartment. They're like, I just want to have someone to view it, make sure it's safe. So
Yeah.
definitely all hands on deck with that one.
Yes. Nice to have an extra set of eyes.
Yes. So I know we kind of moving from that. So now that we've covered more of the financial planning needed to secure housing, I wanted to talk a little bit about the rental options and what's available and how to decide which one's best for you. So, kind of going into types of housing. So, apartment complex versus private rental. So, when you're looking at housing in the US, you'll generally find two main types of rentals. So, you have listed here, you have apartment complexes. So, these are usually large multi unit buildings managed by a leasing office or property management company. And then you have private rentals. So, this can be homes, townhouses, or small apartments units owned by individual landlords. Sometimes, depending on location, you get lucky enough. And I've had actually someone who rented from a former health carousel employee. So that was exciting. So each option has its advantages depending on your preferences, lifestyle, and budget. So we'll go through kind of a quick comparison between the two. So, apartment complexes are rental buildings or community owned properties, usually owned by management companies. So, they typically offer standardized lease agreements and include on site amenities like gyms, pools, and community spaces. One advantage of apartment complexes is maintenance services. So, if something breaks, there's usually a dedicated team available to fix it quickly. However, lease policies are less flexible and you may have less control over personalizing your space. And then with private rentals, they're typically homes, townhouses, or small apartment units owned by individual landlords. So they may allow more lease flexibility, meaning you might be able to negotiate your rent and kind of rental terms. However, in private rentals, maintenance responsibilities can fall on the tenant, so meaning that you may have to arrange repairs yourself. So the trade-off is more privacy, more space, and fewer restrictions on customization. So that's something to think about as well. And then when deciding between these options, think about what matters most to you. So really think about, is it amenities and convenience or flexibility and privacy?
And
So
one thing I want to add too, since we do get this question a lot, I feel like from our healthcare professionals, maybe they, don't have dependents, but they have a pet that they want to bring, or, the pet is part of their family along with their dependents. And a lot of places, if you're choosing to rent, might have a fee involved depending on what type of pet you have living with you, whether it be a cat or a dog. If you have a pet outside of a cat or a dog, then that's something to discuss with your landlord, and look into and ask questions when you're looking for a place to live. Alongside with a fee for rent, there might also be breed restrictions. And since we do have a lot of healthcare professionals that want to bring along their fur babies, it's good to know kind of the fees that are involved if you are choosing to rent once you move to the US.
yeah, definitely love seeing all the pictures of the fur babies.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things that I wanted to cover too with housing. So kind of now that we've looked at the differences between, renting at an apartment complex versus a private rental, I think it's important to talk about how some international renters face an additional challenge. So apply how to overcome that obstacle. So, diving a little bit more into the additional challenge is that many international nurses, when they arrive to the US, don't have a US credit score. They don't have a social security number or rental history, which can make it harder to get approved for a lease. But don't worry, there are some workarounds to help you secure housing, and we have plenty of experience with it, so we're there to support you. So, some landlords may ask for alternative documentation like proof of employment, a job contract or an offer letter. This could also be the landlord letter that you'll get from your international employee supervisor. Bank statements showing financial stability, a larger security deposit if required, and a US-based cosigner or guarantor. Like I said before, you are not alone in this. Our travel and housing team can help you connect with landlords about the details of our program and kind of work around these issues that might come up. And then in the coming months, we will actually take a deep dive into understanding US credit. So, how to build credit, improve your credit score, and why it's important for future financial decisions, like buying a home or leasing an apartment. So, stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming up in the coming months. So kind of with the next part is that since the rental process can take time, one of the best ways to reduce stress is to secure housing before you arrive. So here's kind of reasons that we've, seen on why it's great to plan and kind of secure housing before arriving. So here we have peace of mind. So knowing where you'll live before you arrive removes a huge stress from your transition. So you kind of know where your home base is going to be or have an idea. If you don't have it secured fully and have meetings set up with the landlords, that's great too. You'll have things to kind of look forward to once you arrive. And then with avoiding temporary housing costs. So instead of paying for hotels or short-term rentals, you can move straight into your home. So kind of get comfy, be able to rest. I know jet lag is a thing, so being able to take that time to really recoup is important as well. So better location choices. So you'll have more time to explore the neighborhoods, compare commute times, and find a place near your workspace. I know a lot of people have been able to, by securing housing prior to their arrival, they've been able to kind of build a community of support quicker and find different resources. I know everybody kind of finds their local Walmart, Kroger, Target, whatever that might be. That's always a fun discovery. And then also another benefit is faster financial planning. So knowing your rent amount in advance helps you create an accurate budget. So kind of planning before your start. And then establishing residency sooner. So having a local address is important for things like getting a driver's license, registering for schools for your children, and opening a bank account. And then with the smoother transition, it's with one less thing to worry about, you can focus on settling and kind of getting yourself established in the US and adjusting to your new life that you're going to be able to create. It's always a possibility to wait. I think Courtney said this before. It's always a possibility to wait until after your arrival to secure housing. So this gives you the opportunity to visit neighborhoods in person and better understand your new surroundings. I know safety is really important, so that could be an element to consider as well. But it can be time consuming and may come with added short-term housing costs. So our travel and housing team is there to assist you with securing housing before your arrival. And like I said before, this is kind of an element of the full circle of support you can get as an employee with us. So now that you have a better understanding of the housing process, let's wrap up with a few final thoughts. So like I said before, understanding your housing options and planning your move carefully will help your transition to the U.S. go more smoothly. As a part of your full circle of support, our travel and housing team and just our team in general is here to assist you with securing housing. So if you have any questions about navigating the rental process or answering any questions, we're right there for you. And if you haven't already, start researching housing options and budgeting for your move. We're here to help every step of the way. So you're in really good hands. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chloe. You did such a good job kind of breaking down the different options that our healthcare professionals have once they arrive in the United States when it comes to housing. I know that is a big stressor, especially when we've talked to our nurses who are currently in the US and working. That is something that they continuously bring up, is how overwhelmed they were trying to find a place to live. So I think Chloe had touched on this, but community is huge. When you're doing your research on where you want to live when you're in the US. Maybe start off with the basics. I know a lot of our healthcare professionals think of like New York or California, but there are so many more locations. And depending on the type of community that you're looking for, you might find it in a state that you're unaware of, but having a community there to help you with your transition, and a community to talk to and help you with finding a house, is going to be huge with your transition. So I think Shayla and Lily had touched on this too, but planning is key. So definitely, start with the basics and work up with your plan. But thank you again, Chloe, for giving us a lot of insightful information, and a helpful look at what to expect with housing in the United States. It's definitely a good reminder that planning ahead is the key to feeling confident once you arrive in the United States.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chloe. All right. So from understanding different rental requirements, knowing where to begin your research, having trusted support is all going to make a difference with your arrival. And that's what Health Carousel wants to do, is provide you with that support, let you know that we're here for you each step of the way.